Welcome on in. If you are looking for some advice on your money, maybe wondering what's going on with the current economy, you have come to the right place. This is Lowcountry Money Talk, and at the desk with me today, I have Phil Bloyd, and he's our resident expert. You know why? Because Phil, you always give us great advice. You help us really unpack what is all going on. You're with Revolutionary Financial Group, of course. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here again, Jessa.
I love hanging out with you.
Hey, let's see what we can find out about today.
Let's talk about something really fun. You ready? Can we talk about the federal debt?
That's probably not fun, but
I know.
Sure.
Let's talk about it anyway.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, let's find out how, we all know the size of our federal debt is an issue, but what we may not really reconcile with is how does it affect us, particularly those who are in retirement?
Right. Well, right now we're dealing with huge inflation.
Yeah.
That's partly related to the debt and the out of control spending, you know, the endless printing of money. So we're about 31.5 trillion. You know, the USDebtClock.org. I mean, that's that. When you go to that, you'll see like it's moving so quickly, and it'll show you how much interest is on the debt and all these different things. So with retirees, getting back to that, somebody's going to have to pay some bills somewhere.
Right.
But the thing that's killing us right now is just the huge inflation and all that. You know, the value of the dollar with inflation is not what it used to be.
Right.
So that's kind of a tax on all of us. We're paying more for everything.
Right.
So that's kind of, and also, you know, tax increases down the pike.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. So what does that mean for those who are in retirement or nearing retirement? How are those tax increases really affecting them?
Well, most retirees have stuffed a lot of their money in deferred accounts.
Right.
Deferred doesn't mean tax-free, it means later.
Later. Ooh.
So, you know, the government's going to decide at what rate they tax those funds as you take them out of your IRA. So that can be a little scary. So we're stashing away huge sums of money, and we don't know how much we're going to lose when we get into the distribution phase and actually have to take money out.
Right.
And at 73, you do have to take those funds.
Well, and that's the question that, you know, let's talk a little bit about that. For those who are drawing right now from their 401k, or I learned last time I saw you what a 403b is, essentially the nonprofit version of that. How can you still build wealth if there's all these extra taxes?
Well, first of all, I always say that if we save in fees and expenses and taxes, that's an excellent way to save money, even if the stock market's down. So that's one of the first things we want to look for.
Okay.
Because most people are paying too much to have their money managed. They're paying too much in taxes, and they're paying too high fees internally on a lot of their holdings. So that's an excellent place to start.
Okay. Now, is there such a thing for viewers watching as a safe money? Like, what would be a safe way to keep your money?
Well, when we want to look at low risk, you know, I always look at three things that are considered low risk in life, and one, staying in the bed and sleeping all day unless a tree falls through.
Oh, that sounds nice. Can I do
I'm
that?
just kidding. So, you know, when it comes to money, you know, when we think safe, we think, hey, government, right? Because the government's always, they have to pay their bills, even if they print more money, even if they charge us more taxes.
True.
You know, so we look at government issues. What does the government offer for lower risk? That's one thing. The other thing, people look to banks because they like the FDIC insurance and
feels
things
safe.
of that. Yeah,
There's
I can
a
see
seal on the
it.
door.
I can go touch it. Maybe somebody's working there today. I don't know. So the bank, and then also insurance. You know, we have most of our valuables, the things that we really cherish: life, health, car, home. You know, we look to insurance companies to insure those. So maybe a little bit of our retirement should be insured as well. So those are the three things I look for.
Okay, so how do we know who to talk to?
Well, remember, all financial advisors aren't the same. I'm independent, local, and fiduciary. So I specialize in retirees and the distributions that they have to take. This means I work for you, not a big company with a big sign over the door. You know, so we have that independent relationship. With a Revolutionary Wealth Review, you know, we'll have the team to assess how much you're paying in taxes, what your risk is, a portfolio analysis, and once all of that's done, then I will sit down with you and review that, and we will establish an income distribution strategy that's good also, not just in bull markets, but in bear markets that we're in as well.
And it's a great team. When you say local, I mean, they're literally, some of them sitting in studio today, right here. Yeah. It is local. It's a great time to take advantage of this offer from Phil and his team. This is a revolutionary wealth review, so beginning of the year, we're all kind of going through things anyways. It's no obligation, although I will say a good client for Revolutionary Financial Group, if you have $500,000 or more in investable assets, give Rachel a call and she'll get you all set up. And we will get you set up with more great information after the break here on Lowcountry Money Talk. Welcome back into Lowcountry Money Talk. If you're just tuning in, we are having so much fun that we talked about the federal debt.
That really gets you going.
It's a party. Yes. We are back from break now. Phil Bloyd from Revolutionary Financial Group is here.
Yes.
I want to talk now, Phil, about some strategies for boosting retirement income. Mm-hmm. So we talked about what the effects, of course, of the debt, the federal debt, could be on retirees.
Yes.
So now let's talk about some ways that we can really boost our income.
Yeah.
How can we help?
I'm excited.
I know you are. I love it.
So, the way I see things is just if we can save in expenses, investment fees, and taxes.
Ooh, that word again.
That is increasing our income.
Right.
And no matter what the market's doing, there's opportunities for those things.
Okay.
I've seen people that have come in to my office where they're paying excessive fees. One example we could say is, if I'm a retiree and someone's managing my money and I've not been paying much attention because over the last, 12 to 13 years until the last year, the market's just been on fire. So it's like, everything's good, doing well, whether it is or not, you have that perception.
It feels that way. Right?
Maybe you're not measuring it against market averages like we talk about all the time.
Yeah, which is important. So things are going up and you're just feeling good about it, not really necessarily paying attention to, are you doing good compared to market averages? Are your fees too high?
Well,
etc.
The one thing we look at our revolutionary wealth reports, one of the things we do is the portfolio analysis. So that's going to say, here's how you're doing compared to average, here's how much you're paying in fees and expenses, and that is really eye-opening.
Yeah, and a lot of times you find out that maybe you're not doing as well as you thought, and maybe your fees are higher than they need to be, and that's where you come in and you save people money. So let's talk a little bit about specific strategies for that.
Sure.
Give some examples of maybe how you can help people save that money.
Let's say a person comes in, they think they're paying 1%, and I'm like, no, really, you're paying 2.5%. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm paying my advisor 1. Well, then I look at their portfolio, and they have other items in there that have internal costs and fees. And maybe those internal costs and fees are 1.5%. Okay. So then they're paying 2.5%. So we just do simple math and say, hey, look, the way you have your account arranged right now, you're paying $20,000 a year in fees and expenses.
Right. Ooh.
And if we can cut that in half or even more, get it down to 10 or 5,000 a year, just think how much more income that creates.
Right.
We didn't say, hey, anything's going on with the stock market. We're just cutting fees and expenses.
Isn't that amazing? Just cutting fees and expenses.
Well, what if you owe taxes? Okay, remember we talked about the deferred accounts, right? So the IRS is our partner on our IRAs, right? So the thing we look at there is we look at, hey, right now our tax plan that we're in, our tax code that's in force, it expires at the end of 2025, and then our tax rates go right back up. So if we have a plan, a Roth Conversion plan, that's one of the things that the team will do an analysis on, and we're saying, hey, we just this week had an opportunity to convert some stocks over, and after the conversion, those stocks went up over 20-some%.
So
tax-free.
That's amazing.
Because we locked in our taxes at the lower rate. One of the stocks we converted over at 144, now it's 186 in a few days. So that's a heck of a strategy.
So the conversion is essentially you're paying taxes now while it's lower.
Right.
And then it goes up and you're not paying the taxes then on that growth.
Roth Conversion. Need to have that plan.
Yeah.
And what I would say, if you'd like to learn more about this information, now's a great time to go to my website and download the latest booklet called What to Do in a Down Market.
I think that's a great idea. Head to the website, revolutionaryfinancial.com. Get that free booklet. It's 8 pages. It's got great information. And speaking of great information, I think we've got more great information coming up next. We'll be right back. Stick with us. Here on Lowcountry Money Talk, we spend lots of great time giving you some advice on the current situation and how you might handle that in retirement. And if you're about to enter retirement, good news is we've got Phil Bloyd. He's still here. We got the board out. How are you? You ready?
I'm ready. I like the board.
I love it. We've had some folks, of course, want to know about Social Security.
Sure.
And of course, seniors hate the taxation part of Social Security. So let's unpack that a little bit for our viewers and how that works and what we can do about it.
Okay, Jess, the first thing we have to do is find out how the government determines how much of your Social Security will be taxed.
Yeah, it's sort of a mystery for me, so let's figure this out.
Okay, so the IRS may call it provisional income, modified adjusted gross income, however you want to stage it. But basically, we can do this exercise at home. The first thing they're going to want to do, we'll call it provisional income, okay? The first thing you want to do is you want to take half of your Social Security, and you want to write that down.
Okay.
So if you're receiving joint, we'll do joint today just for lack of time. So if we're receiving joint Social Security, both husband and wife or whatever it may be, you're going to write half that down. So if you're receiving $50,000 for provisional income purposes, $25,000 would go there.
Okay.
The next thing, any W-2s, any 1099s, any type of income, even interest income on municipal bonds even count.
Okay.
Any required minimum distributions, all of these numbers will count
Towards
as
your
provisional income.
Essentially, anything coming in. Got it.
Let's say there's another 25,000, so then we're at like 50.
All right.
Okay, so let's just say that may be your provisional income.
Okay.
All right, you can do the exercise at home and figure out what your own numbers are, but basically almost everything that you bring in counts. Okay?
It all counts. Okay.
Right.
Unfortunately.
So that's the first step.
Yeah.
Okay. The next step would be if you're married filing jointly, the first is $32,000. So if we're over $32,000 in our provisional income, the Social Security taxation starts.
Okay.
And $32,000 to $44,000 can be up to 50%. Okay.
Wow.
And if I'm over 44, then it can be up to 85% of my Social Security could be taxable.
It just keeps going up. Okay.
Gets worse.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, on our example, we said we were getting, $40,000 in Social Security or whatever it may be. We'll say maybe 50 or
yeah, you started with 50.
Yeah. But all that wasn't Social Security. But anyway,
right.
That's how we determine, and it will be at that rate. The next thing we have to do, you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the U.S. tax code.
Okay.
It looks like a funky tic-tac-toe.
It does. I was ready to be O's.
So we have a provisional tax code, or progressive, we'll say. I'm sorry, it's progressive.
A progressive
Some
tax
people call
code.
it regressive.
Well, yeah, well.
We'll say progressive. Okay. So what's that first rate married filing joint? Well, first, what's the exemption?
Okay, the exemption for married filing jointly is 27.7.
Okay, for 2023, so that means on the first 27,700, the rate's 0.
Okay.
Then we start working up the scale. What's the first percentage?
All right, so the first percentage is 10%.
Goes up to
22,000.
Then the next.
Then it goes to 12, which goes up to 89,450.
Okay.
Then we see a jump.
Oops, we skipped some numbers, didn't we? 12 to 22.
Then it goes to 22.
And then what's
and
that?
that's 190,750.
Okay. 197?
190.
197.
750.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we go 24 and then on up.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
So when our Social Security is going to be taxed, here's the thing, it doesn't go up, it comes in through the top.
Okay.
Okay, so whatever amount of we're running out of time, so I have to get into all that.
Dive in.
But whatever amount of my Social Security is taxable,
Yes.
whether it's 40,000 or 30,000 or whatever it is, will be taxed at my highest rate. So if my highest rate is 22%, then 40,000 in my example times 22%, that's how much I'm going to give back to the government of my Social Security.
Wow.
Yes.
You might need to watch this back. I might need to watch this
Yeah.
back. Okay, wow, that's interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes.
All right, so what do you suggest we do
Well,
to
what we want to
sort
do
this
is,
out?
if you're not sure, first check with your tax advisor or whatever it may be. But if you want to come in for a risk assessment, we always look at ways that you have your money invested and how we might be able to change that to lower or eliminate the taxation on Social Security if possible.
Yeah, it's a good time to do that. We spoke about this earlier in the show. As you are kind of preparing, you're gathering things anyways. Go ahead and give them a call. There's no obligation to have everything. Take a look, sort through it. Make sure you're doing things that's going to be best for your financial picture. And call Rachel and the team for a no obligation meeting. It'll be good. And we also have one more segment for you that I promise will be good.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, after the break. Stick with us. All right, my friends, you have made it to our final segment, and we've talked about a lot.
A lot of stuff.
We've crammed it in. Actually, Phil has. You've done a great job. We talked about record national debt. We talked about saving money on taxes and fees, a big one. Last segment, you unpacked Social Security and taxation there. Let's talk about, I have good news, bad news scenario for you here. The bad news is we're going to talk about how bad the stock market was in 2022. The good news is we have an expert on hand who can help us with this, really understand it, and then figure out what to do about it. So Phil, how bad was it?
Okay, so according to Morningstar, the basic S&P 500 index was down under 20%, it was like 19 something for the year.
Yeah.
So that'd be the S&P. The NASDAQ, the tech heavy, was more like 34% for the year.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so maybe average 25% for the year. That's a big haircut, as we say.
Haircut.
We call them haircuts because it sounds better, right?
It does.
Than a loss. So that's a big thing, and people run to bonds, Jessa, for coverage. Well, the bonds gave no cover for this past year, 2022. So the U.S. Core Bond Index, according to Morningstar, was down almost 13%. So it's like, well, I put my money in bonds. Well, that was down 13%. And then, the corporate, now that was the largest in history.
The worst. Largest, basically.
The worst downturn in history.
Okay.
And the U.S. Corporate Bond Index was down 15.7. And that was like the worst in 23 years.
Okay, so a lot of down, I'm hearing. And we knew that, but it's record breaking in some cases.
Well, people usually, they run to bonds for protection. They didn't get it.
No, they did not.
So, that should be a lesson that bonds won't provide the protection. So if we're doing the bear and the bull IRA strategy, we wouldn't want to use bonds for that, I would say.
Okay.
We would want to use other things that I mentioned earlier in the show, but those are some of the things.
Wow. Okay, well, it's a lot of information, and a lot of us felt that, right? We knew it was down. We felt it. We were on a high. We were feeling good. Now we're not feeling so great.
Right.
So how do you position this with clients? I know a lot of viewers will say, I've talked to my financial advisor. They said, you know what, we got to ride this out.
Ride it out.
And it'll bounce back. What do you say to that?
I would say that history tends to repeat itself, and historically in a bear market situation, the S&P 500 index goes down about 35%. So if it went down 20% last year and normally it goes down 35%, I would be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. So if there's a freight train coming, my mama didn't raise no fool, I'm not standing on the tracks.
Yeah.
So that just hang in there. When we talk about the worst in history, we talk about the worst in 23 years, that just hang around, maybe we can make some changes now, lower fees and expenses, taxes, not take that extra leg down in the market, okay, if it's potentially coming, so we can rearrange some things and be ready for when the sun comes out.
Right, and hopefully it will. And it will eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
I think it's a good idea, to get a second opinion, especially if that is the advice you're getting, is to just ride it out. If you're having surgery, you would get a second opinion. This is your money, so this is your life savings and your retirement.
Well, my team and myself, we do this every day. We look over people's finances, their statements. We look for savings. We have our revolutionary wealth review. The team is experienced. They do this day in and day out. We want to look at ways that we can position you no matter what the market is doing, because we can't control that. But I think the opinion just hang around and wait. I don't know if that's the best opinion. Really.
Well, it doesn't sound like a strategy, and that's what we've talked about on this show, is you have to have a strategy for both markets, for all scenarios. And the stock market picture hurt big time last year. But what doesn't hurt is getting a complimentary second opinion, because there isn't any obligation. It's a great time to do it. Give Rachel a call. She will get you set up with a revolutionary wealth review. And I cannot believe it, Phil, but we're done. That's the end of our show.
Too fast.
We'll do this again.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.